Welcome to Unmasked, where we take off the filters and get real about faith, failure, and finding freedom. I'm your host, Wesley Farnsworth, a dad, veteran, author, and a man who's learned that God does his best work in the middle of our mess. Each episode will have honest conversations with people who've walked through addiction, pain, or doubt, and with pastors, leaders, and everyday believers who are learning to live and lead authentically. So take a breath, pull up a chair, and let's get real. This is Unmasked. If you're anything like me, the word powerless doesn't sound like good news. I spent years trying to prove that I was strong enough, disciplined enough, and spiritually capable of handling my own life, but I couldn't. For 20 years, I wrestled with an addiction to pornography and codependency, where I cared more about what other people thought of me than what I thought of myself, or more importantly, what God thought about me. It began when I was a teenager, long before I understood what real intimacy or faithfulness truly meant. I told myself that I could manage it, hide it, and fix it when I was ready. I thought sheer willpower was enough. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. Every time I tried to quit on my own, I'd fall again for one reason or another, and the shame just got heavier. It wasn't until I walked through the doors of Celebrate Recovery for the first time that I really began to realize I couldn't do it by myself. That's when I started to understand that the word powerless doesn't mean weak. Instead, it means honest. In Celebrate Recovery, everything is based on 8 principles, or 12 steps, which are all Christ-centered and biblically based. The first principle says that I have to realize I am not God. I have to admit that I am powerless to control my tendency to do the wrong thing, and that my life is unmanageable. There's a verse that goes with that says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." Matthew 5:3. And the first step says that we admitted that we were powerless over our addictions and compulsive behaviors, and that our lives had become unmanageable. For I know that good itself does not dwell in me, for I have the desire to do what is good, but I cannot carry it out. Romans 7:18. See, powerless requires us to do 4 actions of surrender. 2 of them are things that we must stop doing, and 2 of them are things that we must start doing. So let's take a look at some things that we have to stop doing. First, we have to stop denying the pain. For years, I pretended that everything was fine. I was a professional communicator, the church kid, the guy who knew how to say the right things. But inside, I was drowning. I told myself, I can handle this. It's not that bad. That was denial talking. In Psalm 6:2-3, it says, "Have mercy on me, Lord, for I am faint. Heal me, Lord, for my bones are in agony. My soul is in deep anguish. How long, Lord? How long?" Like David, I reached the point where my pain finally outweighed my fear. When we stop denying, healing can begin. The second action that we must do is we must stop playing God. I used to think that control was strength. If I could just manage my behavior, manage other people's opinions, manage the outcomes, then maybe, just maybe, I wouldn't need help. But control is an illusion. Matthew 6:24 says, "No one can serve 2 masters. You cannot serve both God and money." You could replace money with control, comfort, or approval, but there are only 2 jobs, God's and mine. I had been trying to do both and failing at both. The moment that I stopped trying to be God, there was finally room for God to be God in my life. So now let's take a look at some things that we must start doing. That third action is that we must start admitting powerlessness. This was my turning point. After years of hiding and trying harder, I remember being alone one night, angry and exhausted. And I asked God, why can't I stop this? And it was as if he whispered in that moment, "Because you're trying to do my job." That broke me, but it also set me free. I finally said, "God, I can't do this anymore." And for the first time, I meant it. That is when transformation began. Not because I got stronger, but because I got honest. People sometimes ask me, how can you stand up and talk so openly about your addiction? How can you write about it in your book, share it on your podcasts, or preach about it from the pulpit? My answer to that is simple, because I've realized that what God did for me was too amazing to keep quiet about. I am powerless to control what other people think or say about me. But obedience matters more than reputation. God called me to share my story, and obedience means doing it even when it's uncomfortable. Matthew 19:26 says, with man, this is impossible, but with God, all things are possible. The fourth action and the second thing that we must start doing is that we need to start admitting that life is unmanageable. The first real step towards freedom is honesty. Psalms 40 verse 12 says, for troubles without number surround me. My sins have overtaken me, and I cannot see. When I finally admitted that my life was unmanageable, that I couldn't fix it myself, God began to rebuild me, piece by piece. In Celebrate Recovery, we love to use acrostics for everything. So we're going to use the acrostic of Powerless to go along with this episode. Each letter shows what happens when we surrender God's control and we let God lead. The P stands for pride. In Proverbs 29:23, it says that pride brings a person low, but the lowly in spirit gain honor. Pride kept me from asking for help. I wanted to look strong, but it only made me weaker. The O is for only ifs. Luke 12:2-3 says, there is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, or hidden that will not be made known. For what you have said in the dark will be heard in the daylight, and what you have whispered in the ear in the inner rooms will be proclaimed from the rooftops. I lived by the only ifs for a while. Only if I had done that. Only if I had been stronger. Only if this. Only if that. But God doesn't work in the past. He heals in the present. The W is for worry. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. I don't know about you, but I like to worry, or I like to control, I should say. I like to control what's going to happen tomorrow or even today, but I can't do that. And so sometimes I find myself worrying about it. But simply put, worry is faith in reverse. When we try to control things and worry about outcomes, we're not practicing faith. I used to plan, control, and panic. But when I trust God daily, peace comes. The E is for escape. Ephesians 5:13-14 says, but everything exposed by the light becomes visible, and everything that is illuminated becomes a light. That is why it is said, wake up, sleeper, rise from the dead, and Christ will shine on you. My addiction became an escape from pain, from boredom, from life, and every escape tunnel collapsed. In the end, God didn't numb my pain, He healed it. The R is for resentment. Ephesians 4:26-27 says, in your anger do not sin. Do not let the sun go down while you are still angry, and do not give the devil a foothold. I resented others and myself. Forgiveness wasn't letting anyone off the hook. It was setting me free. The L is for loneliness. In Hebrews 13:1-3, we see Paul talking to fellow believers and encouraging them to love one another like family. It says, keep loving one another as brothers and sisters. Do not forget to show hospitality to strangers, for by doing so, some people have shown hospitality to angels without knowing it. Continue to remember those in prison as if you were together with them in prison, and those who are mistreated as if you yourselves were suffering. Even surrounded by people, at times I felt alone, because it felt like the people I was around, family excluded, loved me only when it was convenient for them. But then I found a community in Celebrate Recovery that loved me, showed me hospitality, invited me to do life with them, and that made me feel safe enough to share what I was going through. The E is for emptiness. John 10:10 says, the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. Performance and success never filled the void. Jesus did. The first S stands for selfishness. Luke 17:33 says, whoever tries to keep their life will lose it, and whoever loses their life will preserve it. Recovery changed my prayer from give me to use me. The final letter of our acrostic is the second S, separation. Romans 8:38-39 says, for I am convinced that neither life nor death, neither angels nor demons, neither the present nor the future, nor any powers, neither height or depth, nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus our Lord. When I couldn't feel God, He hadn't moved. I had. So in this moment, I want you to realize that powerless doesn't mean defeated. It means open. It means that we finally stop pretending and that we start trusting. It means trading exhaustion for grace. So today I want to give you the opportunity to take that tangible step forward. For 20 years, addiction could have ended in shame for me, but God turned it into a platform for grace. So today, I'm here with you, not as somebody who has beat addiction, but as someone who has finally stopped fighting it. This morning, or this afternoon, or this evening, whenever you're listening to this, I want to give you that opportunity to take that tangible step. I want you to think about an area of your life that you have been trying to control the outcome of. Maybe it's an addiction or fear. Maybe it's somebody that you've been trying to fix or something that you've been trying to hide. Whatever it is, I want you to surrender it. By surrendering it, you're not giving up. You're giving in to God's power, just like I and so many others have. And when you're ready, I want you to find somebody that you can trust, somebody that you can talk to, and be honest with them about what that something is. Talk to them about it. That honesty and bringing it into the light will help you take that next step in fully surrendering it into God's power and realizing that you are powerless to control the outcome. Thanks for joining me today on Unmasked. If this episode encouraged you, would you take a moment to follow, rate, and share it with somebody who you think could benefit from hearing it? For encouragement and information on having me speak at your church or events and on my coaching services, visit wesleyfarnsworth.com/start. And don't forget to connect with me on social media. Until next time, remember that grace is greater than your past, and freedom begins when we live unmasked. God bless you.